Once again, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you've got your audio, your microphone turned off and your video turned off for the time being. This session is being recorded, and at this moment it is being live streamed. I'm sending it to my YouTube channel, and if you go near the beginning of the chat window, you will see that I've given you the link to where you can double check that out if you want to see what the live stream is. You'll notice that there's probably about a 20-second delay between what we're saying here and what's appearing on live stream. So the issue for today is, how do we go ahead and make use of Zoom to do the live streaming? It's a relatively new feature of Zoom. I believe January was the rollout, and since the beginning of January 2020, it's been improving steadily. In order to make use of this as a way in which you are going to use it, here are some of the simple things that you need. You need to have a computer that that has a little bit of computing power. You want the graphics to be able to capture your image because you're going to be the one who's the worship leader. So you want it to have a reasonably good a processor to handle the graphics of it. I'm using a MacBook Pro right at the moment, but you can do this on Windows-based computers as well using Zoom. And as long as it's got an i5 or i7 processor in it, that would be lots fast enough to handle what's here. You should have a little bit more than normal RAM on your computer. You need to have a webcam, and most webcams on laptop computers, they're okay. But if you have one that's an external one that has a better lens on it, the better the lens, the sharper your image is going to be. And of course, you then need a Zoom account. There are two kinds of Zoom accounts. The free one has all of the same features that the Pro account does and the business accounts. Exactly the same features. So what I'm doing today, you can do as well with a free Zoom account. The big issue here is with a Zoom account, and if you were using it for worship, you're going to find that your worship service will be limited to 41 minutes. Here are the rules. With a free Zoom account or a paid one, you can have a video conference call with up to 100 people, video and audio. So you need a reasonably good internet connection. You will also need you'll also need to understand with that with the free account, the time limit for this conversation is 41 minutes. And then you're going to just be cut off. It gives you a little warning to say you're coming up to your time limit, but your worship service will end after 41 minutes. In an earlier conversation today that I was in, one of the things that was said was in a recent hour-long Zoom worship service, there were people who found the hour too long. So one of the things you might want to think about is, how do we modify the service to keep it within that 41-minute time limit? And that might make it more comfortable for the people who are watching it through Zoom or on a computer screen, or even if they're watching it on a home system. If you're going to stream it live, you need a server in order to stream it to. And so you should make yourself or sign up for a YouTube account, because Zoom right at the moment only Zooms to either Facebook or YouTube. And I don't know which to advise you. There are lots of people who have Facebook accounts, and I know our church does. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. However, that doesn't mean I wouldn't set up an account or a link to the church's Facebook account in order to make use of this. All right, so you have to set up some kind of a YouTube account, and the instructions for those, I don't need to give you those here today. That's stuff you can find very easily just by sending a Google call out or a search on any web engine that says, how do I set up a Google or a YouTube channel? And it's step-by-step instructions. So I really don't need to pass that on to you today. And the same thing for Facebook. Your church probably has a Facebook account now, so you can use the login and password for the church's account in order to link the streamed video to that account. All right. Before I go to my next screen, are there any questions? If you have a question, just turn on your mic. The switch is in the bottom left corner of your Zoom screen.
You do have a question now. How much does a Pro Zoom account cost?
Thank you very much. The Pro Zoom account in Canadian dollars is $200.
For a year?
For a year. It's a subscription per year, and that includes the taxes for 200 Canadian. And the Pro account just takes away the time limit, is the big thing that it does. It gives you a few other advantages, like you can then use, you have more control over the breakout rooms, and there are a few other odds and ends in there, but by and large, the free account gives you everything you need. The time limit is the big problem there. YouTube account and Facebook accounts don't cost you anything. The YouTube account, if you want to get rid of the advertising, then you can buy a Pro account for YouTube. And I offhand can't tell you what that is, but it allows you to get rid of all of the advertising on your YouTube channel. And then you can, if you're going to be using that as a marketing tool for your church, you can go ahead and add your own kind of advertising and marketing on your own channel. If people choose to add that, then so be it. Yeah, someone just put in the chat box here that the Pro Zoom account is $20 a month. I think if you buy it a year at a time, they give you a bit of a savings. I just finished signing up for a Pro account a couple of days ago, and it was $200 Canadian, including taxes for the year. To the best of my knowledge, the Pro account just allows for 100 viewers. Someone said it's for 300 viewers. So you get that. Thanks, Susie. Are there ads on the Facebook? I have no idea. I'm not a big Facebook fan, so I can't answer that. I just know that it has the capability. Today, when I set this session up, I set it up for live streaming, and it adds a More button to my screen. So when this meeting started, I went and I looked at the More button, and it gave me some choices. Do I want to stream to YouTube, or do I want to stream to Facebook? I'm currently streaming to my YouTube live channel.
George, I think there are other questions around a Pro Zoom account. Perhaps you can answer those at the end and get right into what you're talking about, or we're going to run out of time.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, let's move along, and I'll try and get to those. I'll trust Joy to keep me on track for that. The biggest thing that you need to do if you're going to be streaming is to set your space up. And one of the things is we have a tendency, especially if we're using laptop computers to do things, the laptop computer camera, if it's sitting on a desk in front of you, is always looking up at your face. Hence, it's emphasizing your nostrils. And so most of the viewers are looking up your nose. You should set your computer in such a way that the camera is actually sitting at eye level. Mine's slightly higher than I would like it to be at the moment, because when I look towards my screen, I would like you to think I'm looking directly into your eyes. From time to time, I'll glance down because my image is actually just a little bit lower, as are your images on my computer screen. But by and large, I would like you to observe me as looking directly at you. And so I'm trying to be conscious of looking at my camera all the time. So I've set my camera, it's a separate one from my computer, and I've set it up so it's a little bit above my monitor, and that way it at least gives the impression I'm looking toward you. The big thing is to look at your background. Set your camera up and set it up where you're going to offer your worship service from. It could be in the sanctuary of your church. It could be in your own home. I'm in a basement right now, and you'll notice that my background is pretty plain. That's because I'm using a green screen. When we first started doing this, we did worship, or not worship, but we recorded sermons in our living room because we have cedar walls in our living room, and we just put a church banner up in the background. So it was a simple banner, simple background. We might have moved a plant into the scene and put a little bit of light on it. And so one of the things you want to check for, are there bright spots behind me? Because if there are bright spots behind you, the camera will set itself for the bright spot, and it will make your face dark. People want to see you when you're leading worship. So you need to have good lighting on you. Again, you don't need to have expensive lighting. I have studio lights on me right now that are adjustable, but you don't need that. What we have in Joy's office upstairs are circular aluminum frames with an LED light bulb in them. And if we want to soften the light, we stretch a piece of white tissue paper over it. So you can be really creative with this, and they've got little clamps so we can clamp them onto edges and ledges and bookcases to direct the light more effectively. But knowing what your background is like and keeping it uncluttered, let me just show you a moment why I put a green screen behind me today. Here's what my background normally looks like. It's pretty cluttered. enough laughter, Joy. This just ensures that there's nothing distracting behind me that's going to get in the way of our communications with one another today. And that would be even more important if we were in a worship service. You may have to add a little bit of lighting. So you want to get the lighting from behind you out of the way. That causes problems. What you can do is you can take a light and shine it on a wall in front of you. If the wall is white, that's even bonus. Or drape a white cloth that the light will reflect off of and onto your face. What that does is it gives you nice soft light, nice even and soft light on your face. It's great for skin tones. And so people will be able to see you easily. They will be able to connect with you more readily if the lighting is good. From that point on, not a whole bunch changes. You still have to plan your worship service. You may want to just be careful not to plan too much music, because there are issues now. If you're streaming it live, it means it's going out onto the internet somewhere and it's being saved there. And there are copyright issues around music that you have to be aware of. And so I would caution you about music. If you sing the music from More Voices and Voices United, that's not a problem. But if you play the music, there may very much be problems with that. One of the things would be using the CD and DVD of the More Voices accompaniment collection, which is no longer in print, or the, not More Voices, the Voices United accompaniment collection, or the More Voices DVD disc. Both of those, there are issues about copyright. And so to save yourself some hassles, and the big hassle is both YouTube and Facebook have devices called crawlers that check to see that stuff going up is not in copyright infringement. And generally speaking, what happens is they'll just shut down your live feed if, in fact, they find you're in a copyright violation. They won't do anything other than send you a notification and shut your live feed down. And then you have to go ahead and say, and have an argument with them that says, but I do have copyright for this because I have a one license that allows me to use this music and all of that kind of thing. And in your worship service, if you're going to have other people helping you with this service, like if you've got someone who's going to be reading scripture, you can do that online. For instance, I could ask Stephen Loth to read scripture for me today, but he and I probably should have connected earlier, and at the point at which Stephen was going to read scripture, he would unmute his mic, unmute his video, and he would read. And because we're in, on my screen at any rate, we're in speaker view. I'm seeing each of you as a film strip across the top of my screen. And at the moment, because I'm the one who's doing the talking, my image is dominant on the screen. And that's because I want my image to be the one that's recorded. I want only the speaker's image to be recorded. And so you would be in what's called speaker view. Take a moment now and have a look at the Zoom window that you're in. If you see at the top right corner of your Zoom window the words gallery view, when you are in gallery view, it means you're seeing us like, what was the name of the family that had, I can't remember the television show that had.
The Brady Bunch.
Thanks, that's it, Brady Bunch. You would see all of us on the screen, up to 49 people at a time, in little thumbnail sketches.
George, on my computer right now, that's under a little box that has 9 little boxes in it, up at the top right. It doesn't say speaker view or gallery view when I'm set up this way.
Okay, thank you very much. Your screen obviously is different than mine. So if you clicked on that little, it looks like a checkerboard, the top right corner, it will change the view on your screen. I'm changing my view now. You can see that I'm seeing all of these little thumbnails. I'm going to go back to speaker view so that, again, I'm the dominant person. The one speaking is the one who's featured. And so you would take some time before worship and do a little bit of practicing so you get used to muting and unmuting your microphones as need be. Right now, Joy has partial control of this service. So Joy can go ahead and she can unmute your microphones for you. So that's one of the problems that we're confronted with in this, is you have to make sure at the very beginning that people know they have to leave their microphones muted. It's only when someone is actually actively participating in the service. I'd like to go back for a moment to the idea about using music too. You're not aware of this because we're all in our own space, and what I'm saying right now to you will sound as though it's very natural and very normal. If we were all singing, if I asked us all to unmute your mics and sing a hymn with me, we're all going to be hearing my delivery of that a fraction of a second differently than everybody else. What will come out if we're all singing through our microphones at once is cacophony. And so if you've got people who are going to lead singing, they could be one of the groups in one of these little thumbnail sketches. And so you could have a soprano, alto, tenor, and bass who are going to lead the song. The rest of it would sing it in our space with our microphones muted. But we would have a choir or a quartet who might lead us in our singing. And for me, that would be a good thing, because very often I start things on the wrong note. Joy would be the first one to tell us. Someone, I noticed Stephen says, one license gives us streaming free to April 15th. Yes, that's true. That's during this shutdown period and during the time of the crisis over the coronavirus. But you can also get a podcast license, and that does cover the streaming as well. The intent of this session was, how do we do this kind of the easiest and simplest way possible? So I'm just letting you know that you don't need to buy a whole bunch of things other than you do need to make sure you have certain accounts set up. But you don't need to spend a whole bunch of money in order to do this initially. If you want it to make it look better, then you're going to have to go a little bit further with it. I think we're about a half an hour into the hour. Are there questions now? I see some coming up here.
Yes. Hello? Yes,
Yes.
Jim. My question is why you can do it live on Zoom. Why, if you were going to do it live and have some sort of participation at different times, why would you put it on YouTube? That's my question.
Well, if I put it on YouTube, I'm streaming live to YouTube.
Yes.
You need a server in order to host the live stream. And right now, Zoom only allows you to do that with either YouTube or Facebook. You can't do it to both simultaneously.
No, but I've had used Zoom to have 50 people in a webinar.
Yes.
Well, can't you do the same thing with a worship service?
Yes, although there's a price tag to having webinars.
George, the answer
I
might
have a-
also the
Go ahead.
answer might also be that if you can stream it directly from Zoom to your 50 people, but then that's a one-time experience. If you have Zoomed it to Facebook, then I might be watching it in Newfoundland at 9:30. I might be watching it at 10 o'clock in BC, and I can still watch it on Facebook.
True. But the same thing. I'm streaming to you. I'm streaming to YouTube right now. Once this meeting is over, the video has been saved to my YouTube channel, and the URL is, because I've made it public. The URL is searchable, and so you would be able to watch it after the fact as well.
And you can still have people engage in the service while you're doing it in Facebook. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Can you ignore audio or video from participants so that the presenter is always visible, no matter if participants unmute their Macs? I believe you can. Let me just check in. It's under the video settings in Zoom, and it is spotlight my video when speaking. So what that means is the speaker, you will find them no matter whether we're in gallery view or whether we're in speaker view. There's a limey green box around the speaker's image. So right now on my screen, I'm seeing this lime green line around my thumbnail image. Are you seeing that as well? If someone else turned on their mic and talked, it will shift from my image to their image.
No, it won't.
Tech just shows up that way on mine.
It does not show up that way on Tech's computer. You are still the dominant image, and I believe that's because you are streaming.
That could be it. Where are you right now? If people aren't familiar with Zoom, they aren't aware of settings. Okay, so when you go to Zoom, and thank you for that question because it's one that I forgot to mention. When you sign up for a Zoom account, whether it's a free account or a paid pro account, you should go to zoom-us.com. And when you get there and sign into your account, you'll have the option to download an app to your computer. It's available for Linux computers, Mac computers, and phones, iPhones, Android phones, Windows-based computers, and so on. But what that does is it puts a small app onto your computer that gives you some controls. And one of those is control settings. And I'm going to try and share my screen with you so you can see the unit that I'm talking about. Okay, so you should be able to see this, meeting window that I've got open here. This is what the front page of that app looks like. I'll make it a little bit larger so it stands out on the screen. And this allows me to go back to the meeting, to join a new meeting, to schedule a meeting, or to share my screen. And up here in the right-hand corner of this application, there's a settings button, and it opens up and allows me to have a lot of control over what my program is going to do. So the general button allows me to set up all of these things. I can set up my video in different ways. Right now I'm using 16:9 widescreen or original ratio, which is 4:3 format. That's like the old tube television sets. I can make some adjustments to my audio. I can change to any one of these systems in here. The same thing with mics. I can choose the microphones that are on my system and move from one mic to another. If I'm sharing my screen, there are features that I can adjust in the Zoom settings around sharing my screen. I can set the chat box up in particular ways. So I have all of this control, including virtual background. And so you can see right now that if I wanted to, I can change my background. And now I've got palm trees waving behind me, the waves rolling across the beach. I'll go back to this one, which was our title as well. And that's only because I'm using a green screen. It does also have, Zoom now also has what they call a virtual green screen. So you don't actually have to go out and buy a green screen. Word of caution, it bleeds the background into parts of your face and your shoulders and whatnot. So while it works, it's okay, but it's not great. So having the green screen is an advantage. If you're going to do recordings, you can change where the recording is going to go. You can have the same location on your computer all of the time. You can record it to the cloud. All of those kinds of things are available to you. You can adjust your profile. It will give you some statistics. You can give feedback to the Zoom people. It also has keyboard shortcuts, and there are some things that will happen for accessibility. If people are hearing impaired, we can also do subtitles. So I'm going to stop the share. Maybe you've got some questions around that for me.
There is a question, George, about group singing is clearly out. Does group prayer work, or does it sound just as horrible?
Group prayer would be the same effect.
But as long as you say the Lord's Prayer and everyone else is on mute, it will seem as if we are all saying it together.
Exactly. That's right. So we don't have to hear one another saying that. We just have to know that we're all saying this together, or trust that the technology is working to allow us to do that.
How are you going to link your stream to your YouTube channel or link it to Facebook? Because every minister can sit in front of Zoom and lead worship, but you need to link it so that other people can see it.
This is from University of Minnesota, Information Technology, and it's a how-to. So it gives you step-by-step. It's a well-done article. It's actually, I found it even more informative than Zoom's own instructions to do this. But essentially what you have to do is you have to go ahead and you have to set up a YouTube account and a YouTube channel. Once you have that, you will have on your YouTube page links that will allow you to put the right information in. And actually Zoom looks after this. I didn't have to do much except say, this is where my YouTube channel was. And as soon as I clicked that little more button on the bottom of my screen, it connected me to, I have 3 or 4 different YouTube accounts. And so it asked me which one of those I wanted to stream to, and I chose the one. It made the link to that YouTube channel.
Just a question. Which link then, like if I was using Zoom, normally I would just send them the Zoom link. In this case, I want to send them the live stream link.
Yes, if you can have people connecting to you directly, as we are today, but you can also then have people who are going to be not directly in the Zoom conversation, but can be participating through Zoom. And if you've turned on the comments feature on your Zoom, on your YouTube account or your YouTube channel, there's a place to add a public comment. All right, so, and that feature is turned on my YouTube channel. So if you were to go to that now, you could comment right there. I would see your comment almost instantly, and I could respond to that. This is where it helps to have a second person. I asked my wife to be my tech today, because we use Zoom a lot. And so it's helpful to have someone who can keep an eye on that chat box for you, so that you can see what's going on, and she can keep me on track.
George, can
Yes.
someone who only has a landline access Zoom?
Only no. Well, yes, you can. You can access Zoom with by phone. I think when the original email went out from Peter's office, it included a phone link as well to this conversation. And so Zoom, when you send out an invitation to a Zoom meeting, it will also give you an option for a phone connection. Now, you won't be able to see it on your landline phone. You'll be able to hear everything though. Then there is a cost to that. And the cost is to the person who's calling. I think if we were using Shining Waters account, or if we were using Canadian Shield region, or we were using the Edge network, or United in Learning's network, Zoom account, they all have made special arrangements with Zoom for a better rate on the phone calls for people who are calling in. In fact, I think they probably are linking it to 800 numbers. If we send out an email with the link, can people forward the email, and can the forwarded person get in? Yes. The link is a live link in the email message. So anyone who clicks on it would be brought into this room. We're looking at help share costs. If we wanted to have a feedback time, how do we manage people? Well, you can certainly have a feedback time through the comments section. But you can also open it up, and maybe we should do that right now, where it's quarter to 3 on my clock, and I'm not sure where everybody is coming from, but if you've got, and people have been doing that, they've been turning on their mics to ask questions. If you want to do that, feel free to go ahead, and we'll just have some time right now to ask the questions. Oh, so will your presentation, streaming worship through Zoom, be on YouTube after this meeting is over? Yes. It actually is. Not only is it being streamed live at the moment, it's actually also being recorded on my YouTube channel.
So I guess my question would be, what have you found to be the most meaningful things that people experience through Zoom? Like, every mode has their own thing that works best. What are some of the best practices for doing Zoom meeting worship?
Well, I think the big thing is for people who are shut in, or people who are as the recommendation is coming out now, that we don't gather together in groups for the next little while, that this is a good alternative. There are always going to be those people for which they're feeling disconnected, regardless of how we do this. There will be people, there will be particularly seniors I'm thinking of, for whom this technology just might not work. One of the congregations Joy and I work with, the average age is 86. There are only 2 people in the congregation with computers.
Mhm.
So this would not be an ideal way to lead worship with them. Now, having said that, they worship once a month with Trinity United Church in Thunder Bay using similar technology, but that technology is in their church, not in their homes. Like I say, there are only two families in that whole congregation that have a computer at home. Does that help? I think the big thing is that whoever the worship leader is, you would gather people round about you, and you could go ahead and put a worship service together, and it could be in real time, streaming it live, and you would just want to set it up so that when it was time for scripture reading, that would be the dominant person on the screen. And that's just a case of them turning on their mic and their video, and or you could leave for that smaller group. You would have scripture reader, you might have someone doing prayers of the people. You could have 3 or 4 people involved. You might have the quartet or a small group of people who are together who are going to lead the music.
And would they have to be in the same room? So say the organist and the minister are in different places. How would the music be played, do you think? How would best be played?
The microphone in the room where the organ or the piano would of course have to be the live one, and it of course would also be better to have the group who are going to be doing the singing with the playing in the same space as well.
Thank you.
But it is my feeling that if we are going to offer this as a possibility for the time in which it's been recommended that we not gather together as groups, the wisest thing would not be to get too complicated, would be to be simple, would be to offer things in a way that would gather the group together rather than more formal things. So I don't know that I would put together a whole worship service from beginning to end with a 15-minute sermon. I think that I would think about how are we going to let the people in our congregations know that they are seen and welcomed together and gathered together through worship, but not spend a lot of time on I don't know all the details.
Helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
I agree. I think we have to modify our worship service from what we've been doing. And to do that, we would probably find ways to shorten that service down.
Could I ask
Yes.
if you have used the record function in any way for the service as an alternative to YouTube, for example?
Yes, I have mine, because I'm really forgetful at times. I'll go into a meeting and forget to turn on record. So I have mine set to record automatically. That's one of the settings in Zoom. So when you have your Zoom account set up and you go to that settings area for recording, one of the options is to have the recording start automatically when the meeting starts.
But I'm wondering if the question is, now once this session is recorded, can you send the information for that recording out to everybody who is in your congregation? And can they watch it from the clicking on the URL for the recording?
And the answer to that is yes.
So that's another option for people viewing it then.
Yes, it doesn't have to be streamed. In this case, you just record it to your computer, or you can record it to the cloud. Zoom allows you a certain amount of space with your account, and so you can record it into Zoom's servers and send the link to that recording to the people in your congregation, and they can look at it after the fact. Janet Smith says, exactly, I'm thinking of a midday prayer format and just connect with others. That's a great idea. It doesn't actually have to be a full-blown worship service, but I think it has to keep us connected to who we are as faith people.
Would it help if George were to take the last 5 minutes and give us the step 1, step 2, step 3 to putting the Zoom together, and then what you would send to your congregation? Okay, people have it, then that's fine.
So,
Sorry, I said yes to that. That actually would be super helpful. The step
Okay.
1, 2, 3 thing.
The 1, 2,
Thank
3? Okay, so let's make some assumptions here though, okay? One is that you have a Zoom account, free or paid, it doesn't matter, that you, if you're going to stream, that you've set up the accounts for Facebook and for YouTube or some other service that you want to stream to. So we'll just assume that. And now you're going to set things in motion. So what you would do is you would schedule a meeting in Zoom. And you can do that either online, or you can schedule the meeting through that little application that I showed you that you would download to your computer. It gives an option to schedule a meeting. And in there, you will set the time up and tell people what time zone it's going to be in. You can set how long the meeting's going to be. I think they're in 10 or 15 minute increments, but you can essentially decide how long the meeting's going to be. If it's a free account, they've already determined that. You have 41 minutes. So once you've got that done, you will have an option to copy that information for this meeting to your clipboard. And at that point, you just have to open up your email browser and start a new email and paste that information into your browser. And if you know all of the people's email addresses in your congregation, you would put that in the blind copy section of the who this is going out to. And that would send them the link to this meeting with the information about the day, the date, and the time of the meeting. Now, it would be helpful at the same time, the very first time you do this, you're going to have to do a little bit of training. And I probably should have done this at the very start today, because I have no idea how much all of you know about Zoom. But initially, you would want to spend some time to talk about what the icons are across the bottom of the screen and which ones you should open, or what are the ones you should just leave alone for the time being. How to set it to gallery view or speaker view. Those are the things there.
Now, stop a moment, George.
Yes?
This is only if you are going to have people join you for worship while you're doing this.
That's right.
It's not for the streaming part. This is just for, I'm going to get together with the 35 people that are usually in worship, and we are going to worship together at that time.
That's what I understood I was being asked.
Okay, but I think you need to do the other element because you've introduced us to the streaming as well.
Okay.
So finish this part, but then make sure you go back to the other.
Okay. So if we're meeting live online, that really culminates it. We would then have everybody online. We'd make sure that whoever is leading worship is the dominant image on the screen. So you'd want to be in speaker view. And so people will see you nice and large and clear. And you would continue through the service. The people who are your assistants in that worship would, or prayer time, or whatever you're going to call it, they will have to know when they're going to come in. So you would want some kind of a script to follow so that the others will come in on time without need to be prompted. So let's go to the second scenario then that Joy suggested. If we're streaming it, then what you need to send out to people is the location of, you're going to set up the session in exactly the same way. You still have to set a date and a time through the setting up a meeting option. It's just that when you start the meeting, whether you've got other people coming to it or not, or if it's just the people who are helping you with the service who are going to be there, you start the meeting, and then at the bottom of the screen, there is a More button in that row of icons at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Under the More icon, it says to me, where do you want to stream to? Facebook, custom server, or YouTube? And I choose the place I want to stream live to. It will give me an option to copy that link. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but at the top of just above the word streaming on the screen, there's a little red and white live button on YouTube. And if I click that open, do you see that on my screen? Copy streaming link.
No, but we can see it. We can do it I can do it on my screen.
Okay, so all of you would be able to do that. You can copy the link directly from that just by clicking that little down arrow and click the copy streaming link, and you can paste it directly into your browser, whatever browser you use normally on your computer, and it will take you to my YouTube channel.
So that's what you would send out to your congregation.
That's right. And so if you were going to do it that way and send the streaming link, right now, once you've got the location of the YouTube channel, it will always stream to that same place. And so you'd only have to do it that one time.
Aileen says she doesn't have a More button. I believe that's because she's not hosting this meeting.
That's right. It'll only be on the host.
You need to have the most current update of Zoom.
Yes, and thank you for that reminder. As long as you have Zoom version 4 or more recent, the streaming features will work. It was from Zoom version 4 forward that feature came into effect. It's a good idea, if you're going to host a Zoom meeting, to always check before the meeting to make sure you have the most recent version. And you can do that at the very top of your screen. If I click on the title bar, it asks me somewhere in here to check for an update. Zoom US. Yes, under the zoom.us item on the title bar, the fourth item down is check for updates. So when you start Zoom up, that's the first thing you should probably do, is check to see if there's an update for the software. And if there is, install it. It will happen within seconds. I don't think it's ever taken more than 30 seconds for it to do an update on my machine.
Okay, George, and I think the other thing is that if I am not streaming it, but I have set up the recording, I get I do my worship service on Thursday, we'll say.
Right.
Then when I get out of Zoom, it will say that it needs to take that recording it's got and put it in a usable form.
That's right.
Right?
Thank you.
You have it saved either on your computer or in the clouds, and you send that information to your congregation, and they can watch it on Friday or they can watch it on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, the advantage of having it record on your own computer is you can clean it up a little bit. When we do this, we use Zoom for recording the stuff that we use in the United in Worship project. And so each week we put up a sermon online, and we put a title at the beginning of it. We put credits at the end of it. And we do that all locally in here after the recording's been done.
But you really don't need to do that.
No, you don't.
You've got the whole worship here.
No. but it creates an MP4 file on your computer that you can edit and add other elements to. Things like the stuff I'm using in the background, that's from a PowerPoint presentation. I made PowerPoint slides and I saved them as pictures, and I just put them up as pictures in my background.
Thomas has asked about the tool we use to edit the video.
Oh, we're a Mac household, and so I use iMovie. If I want to do something something more complex, I use Adobe Presenter or Adobe Premiere Pro.
But the iMovie is what we usually use.
Yeah, it's simple.
Easy.
Easy peasy. Yep.
Yes, and Kirsty has put up some information about Zoom. There is Zoom that's free, Zoom that's pro, and then Zoom for business.
Right.
And it's different prices and has different number of people you can have involved.
Yep. Thanks, Christy.
And Stefan says, don't forget to go to TechSoup for a good price.
Oh, Stephen says
Stefan says,
$90 a year. Stefan says $90 a year for Zoom if you go through TechSoup.
yes.
Wow. Wish I'd seen that before.
Is there a cost for YouTube?
If you want to get rid of the advertising on your YouTube channel, yes, there is.
George, do you want to put up your email address so that if people have questions tomorrow about this, of course, everybody can go to your YouTube channel?
Yes.
And you might want to put that up there too, so that people can see this over again if they want to and move along through it.
Well, they'll find my channel if they just click on that live on YouTube and
There you
copy
go.
the streaming link, because that will
Okay.
take you to my channel.
Thank you. Oh, Stephen says, I believe to live stream on YouTube, you need at least 1,000 subscribers now.
I have nowhere near 1,000 subscribers. I have a YouTube premium account.
Well, maybe that makes the difference.
And well, maybe it does. I've got.
But I think most people are familiar with Facebook. My temptation would be to live stream to your church's Facebook account.
Yes.
And have everyone join that account.
Would you use this also for things like meetings and Bible study, prayer meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have.
We've done a book study using this. Actually, one of the really interesting things that we have done is we did a book study. There were 5 people in Manitouwadge that were in the book study, and 3 or 4 of us here in Marathon. And at one point, we were saying farewell at the end of our evening session, and it suddenly dawned on me that the people in the image on our television set were sitting in a semicircle in front of us, and the 3 of us or 4 of us in Marathon were sitting in a semicircle in front of our TV. And I just said, so let's join hands in prayer. And the people in Manitouwadge, at each end, reached out towards the screen, and so did we. And we were sitting in a virtual circle, and we prayed together. It was pretty neat. It was pretty amazing moment.
George, it occurs to me that people, and I've still been puzzling this, people who saw the green around the screen when different people talk, I wonder if they were in gallery view rather than speaker view.
It should show up in either view.
Okay.
And it will depend on whether you've got that feature turned on in the settings.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that people are in speaker view for this, but gallery view shows up at the top.
Yes. In fact, that's when you know you're in speaker view. If you see the word gallery view at the top right corner, you're in speaker view.
And you need to be in gallery view if you're there preaching.
That's right. So if there isn't anything more, if you've got other questions, or if you try some of this stuff and it doesn't make sense, or I haven't explained myself clearly enough, do send me an email. We can Zoom together and we can problem solve together. one of the other features of Zoom is that it allows us to share one another's computers. So I can actually, with your permission, manipulate something on your screen over distance and show you how I would do it if it were my computer. Carrie, is there, did I manage to cover the things that you were hoping would be covered?
Yes, George. It was good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just curious about bandwidth. That's all, and that's, you know, depending on what we do internally.
Yes, actually, we have broadband 300 here, which is the fastest we can get in Marathon. So that gives me 300 kilobits per second upload, is what they say on average, but it gives me enough bandwidth that I never have to worry about not having enough. And Joy and I have both had separate Zoom meetings running simultaneously here. It's the upload speed that's critical. Download, we have 300 bits per second, normally 316, somewhere around there. And we get about 20 to 21, I think, on upload.
Okay.
And so
yeah,
I think as a baseline, what they say is you need at least 3 kilobits per second upload. That would be the bare minimum. And you can probably get away with 10 to 20 kilobits per second download speed. But those are really bare minimums. You'd get some warnings with that of your internet being unstable.
right. Yeah. I appreciate that, George.
Okay, Carrie. Linda, is there something more I could help you with that you'd like a little more clarity on? Or Clarice? Or?
Oh, hello. No, not this time. I just think that, you know, the educational aspect of this, as far as connecting with an older congregation, it's going to take some time, you know, and time is of the essence right now.
Yes.
For the future, this is great.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Your observation is well understood at this end.
Yes. Thank you so much, though. You're very helpful.
Thank you. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope that this has given you some things to sort of grow on. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.